Well, hey, Bethany Church, a little bit of a scene change today as I come to you from my backyard, sitting on my deck, talking to you a little bit about living on target in the area of our finances. I just want to say how much I appreciate hearing from many of you this week about the choices that you're making to seek to live more on target in this area of your life. I really want to encourage you just to keep up with this direction that you've set before you and believe for the Lord to really just do some amazing stuff in your life in this season. Today I want to focus just for a few minutes talking a little bit about the area of saving and investing. Again, as I mentioned on Sunday, it's really important for us to put all of these pieces in place, not just some of them, that we don't just simply get out of debt but not live on a budget, because without that in place we'll end up getting back in debt. But also in the area of getting on a budget, how important it is for us to begin to look into the future and begin to create that margin or that space to begin to live within our means, even beneath our means, so that we can begin focusing some of our finances towards planning for the future. So as I mentioned Sunday, there's three areas I really want to encourage you to think about in the area of saving and investing. First of all, what is a really, really good principle and discipline for all of us is after we've been able to create that space, getting out of debt, is to begin to target that money that we freed up by pulling back on our budget or perhaps increasing our income, is to begin to target that money towards establishing a bit of a buffer in the area of savings. Now, again, a couple of different areas. Number one, what you want to do is you want to create what some people call an emergency fund, or I've heard it described as an oh no fund, from the standpoint that if something breaks in your house or something breaks in the car, that you have some money that you've set aside that is there, maybe $500, maybe $1,000 that you've set aside that is available for you to dip into in the midst of that emergency. Again, what we want to protect is that we don't have to again turn to credit or turn to our parents or other relatives in order to meet that emergency. Emergencies are going to happen. There's no way to avoid that, but to, in a sense, plan for, to expect the unexpected in a sense and plan for those things. So to set $500 or $1,000 aside to be available when that unexpected thing might happen. Then the second thing that we want to plan for is not just kind of an emergency one-time expense that might come up, but to plan for an unexpected season in your life. Perhaps you or your spouse might be out of work for a season or have an illness, an extended illness, and that you are preparing for that season by setting aside perhaps 2 or 3, some people recommend up to 6 months of money that is set aside that you can access during that season. Now that might seem kind of crazy to you. I mean, the idea of 6 months to me seems a little extreme, but the amazing thing is that this happens more often than we'd like to think. There's a young guy in the church recently who went about 5 months between jobs. And, it's amazing. They had enough money saved up that they were able to go those entire 5 months and be able to live off of the money that they had saved up. Amazing, amazing thing. And so I want to encourage you, it can be done. It's a challenge, it's difficult, but it can be done. And so you might not have that in your savings account or your bank account. It may be more in a money market, but something that is accessible, but money that you can dip into if there's something unexpected like that would go beyond just an emergency. So those are two areas that we really want to begin to get disciplined and focus and set money aside to begin to save for in our lives. And the third thing that we're going to want to begin to look at really closely is further into the future and look at the subject of investing for perhaps some long-term goals that we have. The area of our kids, going into college or looking at our retirement, those kinds of things. And it really is just so critical for us to begin to plan for that. Very, very few of us think that far into the future, but it is, for many of us, going to be something that we're going to be unprepared for. And so that's the importance of beginning to get some advice in the area of investing. Now, I really want to encourage you in a couple of directions. Number one, this is an area that I would really strongly encourage you to get professional advice, people who understand investing. I'll tell you a little bit about our situation. We actually chose recently to back off of some of our investment. We were putting a lot of our money, I felt like it was quite a bit of our money, into investing for retirement, mutual funds. A mutual fund is basically just a group, a fund that has a bunch of different stocks that are held within this fund, and so a lot of times it's not quite as volatile as an individual stock would be. And so we have quite a few mutual funds, IRAs, those kinds of things. But we really felt recently that we were a little bit out of balance in where we needed to be in terms of how much money we were investing in the stock market. So we backed off on some of that. But we still do invest in the area of stocks and mutual funds and plan for our retirement. You know, it's a bit of a balance of not only getting professional help, but really seeking out the Lord on this as well. And some of you asked me just with my views on eschatology and the end times, and how I've become more and more convinced that perhaps the Lord's return is quite soon. Well, what does that mean for me in the area of investing for the future? And you know, I've made a number of decisions, changes in light of some of the things that I've really felt the Lord speaking about the end times and stuff. But I still really feel very strongly that given what I know today, that it is only wisdom to plan that I am going to retire someday, and I am going to want to send my kids to college and those kinds of things, and be prepared for that. It seems to me that's part of the issue that the Thessalonian church was dealing with, where Paul had to give them some harsh instructions about those who had been so focused on the imminent return of the Lord that they had really kind of abdicated any level of responsibility, weren't working or anything like that. So I think that we need to be prepared, living ready for the Lord's return at any time, but also be in a place where we're using wisdom, given the fact that, you know what, the parables speak to being ready if the Lord would return earlier than we think, but also being prepared if the Lord would return later than we might think as well. And so we do invest. We invest in our retirement. We've, as I mentioned, backed off a little bit on that, but we have sought professional advice on that. We have a financial planner that we work with who helps us to figure out our goals. He's a Christian, so he understands our values of giving and our values of seeking to really honor the Lord in the area of our finances. And so I'll share just a few resources with you that might help you in the area of looking at that particular subject of living on target with your finances. But again, an area that we need to look at, even though it's very distant in the future. Let me tell you the one principle that has helped me so much in the area of investing and looking into the future. And it's something I mentioned on Sunday, but it is this issue of beginning to automate the area of our investments and our saving. Is that basically you set up some structures in your finances, and a lot of times it's just a direct deposit that goes from your account, from your checking account, or from your even just your paycheck at work, and you begin to, whatever your goals are, whether it's saving or investing, you begin to automate that to where that money goes from your account to that fund or to that savings account or whatever it might be. It goes automatically. That if you don't want it to happen, you actually have to step in and stop the process. Because I'll tell you, most months there's always some reason not to write that check or not to send that transfer. But when it's automated, sometimes it's just that much, that level of just, in a sense, removing a step or two can really help ensure that the money that you've chosen in your budget that you're going to target towards saving and target towards investing, that it actually goes that direction. So that's a small thing that we do. Again, I never write a check to our IRA or to our 403b or those kinds of things, our life insurance. I don't write those checks. It happens automatically. And I'll tell you, I'm so glad that it does. There's probably a number of months that I would have backed off on some of our goals because there's just months where money does get tight. But when you've set those things in place, both automating your giving but also automating your savings, sometimes that really just helps it to go in the direction of the goals that you've set for your finances. So we want to focus, obviously, on getting out of debt. We want to focus on living within our means. We want to focus on budgeting, but also we want to begin to focus more on thinking into the future, planning for the unexpected, saving money, setting that aside in an emergency fund, setting some money aside in a fund that will help us if we happen to hit an unexpected season in our lives, but also looking further into the future. I'll mention again a couple of resources that might help you in the area of planning for some of your investing and things further into the future. But again, there's a lot of resources out there on the web that I'm sure that you can track down on your own as well. So God bless you. Again, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.